All right, let's talk about something really important, especially if you're getting close to retirement or already there. We're going to ask a tough question. Is the financial plan you built for yesterday actually strong enough for what's coming tomorrow? Let's dive in. I mean, really think about it for a second. The world has changed so much. People are living way longer, and costs are rising in ways we just couldn't have seen coming. So that plan you carefully put together years ago, it might be like trying to navigate today's world with an old, outdated map. For decades, the whole idea behind retirement planning was pretty much set it and forget it. You make a plan, you stick to it, and that's that. The destination was fixed. But what was that old map really based on? Well, the classic model really stood on three main pillars: a steady check from Social Security, a company pension you could count on, and, of course, predictable withdrawals from your savings. The big assumption was that those three things would be more than enough to hold you up. But now, some serious cracks are starting to show in that foundation. So let's get into exactly why that old map just doesn't work anymore. We're dealing with a totally new financial landscape, and it's full of challenges these old plans were never, ever designed to handle. The first big one is actually some really great news. We're living longer. I mean, a lot longer. According to the CDC, once you hit 65, you can expect to live for almost another 2 decades. Now, that's fantastic for you personally, of course, but it puts a ton of pressure on your finances. Your money has a much, much longer runway to cover. And here's where it gets tricky. This chart reveals a really critical gap. Your Social Security might get a cost of living adjustment, or COLA, of about, say, 2.5%. But the costs that hit retirees the hardest, we're talking healthcare here, are inflating at more than double that rate. That gap, right there, is a silent killer for your portfolio. And this isn't just numbers on a chart. That gap has real, serious consequences. AARP reports that 1 out of every 5 seniors struggles just to pay for basic necessities like food and housing. That's the real human cost of relying on an outdated financial plan. So to kind of wrap it all up, you're facing this perfect storm of threats. You've got longevity risk, which means your money has to stretch further than ever before. You have inflation, especially for things like healthcare, just eating away at your purchasing power. Then there's market volatility, which can absolutely cripple your portfolio right when you need it most. And on top of all that, one unexpected health issue can completely throw your budget for a loop. Okay, so what's the solution here? It's not about finding some new perfect plan that you can set and forget all over again. No, it's about adopting a dynamic process. The best way to think about it is like a regular financial checkup for your retirement. It's the modern prescription to keep it healthy and strong for the long haul. The fancy term for this is fixed income reforecasting. But what does that really mean? All it means is proactively and periodically checking in on your retirement plan and making smart adjustments based on what's actually happening, both in your life and in the wider economy. It's an ongoing process, not a one-time event. We can break this whole checkup down into 4 simple, easy-to-remember steps: inventory, projection, adjustment, and monitoring. Let's just call it the IPAM framework. Let's walk through how each of these steps works. Okay, first step, inventory. This is all about knowing exactly what you're working with, all your income sources, all your assets, and every single one of your expenses. And what's so revealing is that for a typical senior, a huge 70% of their budget goes just to essentials. That alone shows you how little wiggle room there really is. Next up is projection, and this is where you model out the future. But here's the key. You don't just plan for the best case scenario. You absolutely have to stress test your plan against the bad stuff, like major market downturns or a spike in inflation. The whole goal is to build a plan that's resilient, one that can take a punch, because the difference is huge. A plan that hasn't been stress tested might run out of money 5 years sooner. All right, so you've done your inventory, you've projected the future. Now comes the most important part of all: taking action. This is your proactive treatment plan. And the crucial thing to remember here is that you have some really powerful levers you can pull. You can do things like optimize your withdrawals using a bucket strategy, where you separate your money for short-term needs from your long-term growth investments. You can actually enhance your income. For example, did you know delaying Social Security until you're 70 earns you an 8% annual boost? You can also look at strategic cuts or smart tax planning. Like the note here says, one retiree, Maria, she combined a few of these tweaks and made her portfolio last over 5 extra years. That's a huge deal. And finally, we have monitoring, because reforecasting isn't a one-and-done fix. You need to have a schedule, A simple annual checkup is a fantastic place to start, but you also have to be ready to reevaluate your plan whenever there's a major trigger, something like a big market drop or a significant life event like a health diagnosis. So now that we've got the framework down, let's talk about how to stay on the right path by avoiding some really common mistakes that can derail even the most carefully laid plans. There are a few big pitfalls to watch out for. First, being way too optimistic about how the market will perform. It's always smarter to plan using more conservative numbers. Second, it's easy to forget about the small stuff like taxes and fees, but those things can silently eat away at your savings over decades. And finally, and this one's huge, making emotional decisions. Panic selling when the market takes a dive can lock in your losses and is often the absolute worst thing you can do for your long-term security. And hey, if you need one last little push to get motivated, here it is. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, retirement plans that are regularly reforecasted are 25% more likely to succeed. Just think about that for a second. This one simple habit dramatically boosts your odds of having a secure retirement. You know, it all comes down to that timeless wisdom from good old Benjamin Franklin. But in today's world, we really need to add a little modern twist to it. Failing to replan is planning to fail. Your plan has to be a living, breathing document. So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. Your life is constantly evolving. The world is constantly evolving. The only question that really matters is your financial plan evolving right along with them? Thanks for listening.